Welcome to 60 Seconds Civics from the Center for Civic Education. I'm Mark Gage. For a seemingly mundane part of the Constitution, the 25th Amendment has seen a lot of use since its ratification on February 10, 1967. The 25th Amendment contains 4 sections. Section 1 says, in case of the removal of the president from office or of his death or resignation, the vice president shall become president. That's fairly straightforward. Before the ratification of the 25th Amendment, there was controversy about whether the vice president would merely inherit the powers of the president until a new election would be called, or whether the vice president would actually become the president. Section 1 made it clear that the vice president actually becomes president. But what happens when the vice president dies or is removed from office? Section 2 of the 25th Amendment says, whenever there is a vacancy in the office of the vice president shall nominate a vice president who shall then take office upon confirmation by a majority vote of both houses of Congress. This actually happened on October 10, 1973, when Vice President Spiro Agnew resigned after having to face charges of bribery and evading income taxes. President Richard Nixon nominated Gerald Ford to serve as vice president, and his nomination was confirmed by Congress. On August 8, 1974, President Nixon himself would resign due to the Watergate scandal, and Gerald Ford, thanks to the 25th Amendment, would take his place as president and nominate Nelson Rockefeller as vice president, who would be confirmed by Congress. Section 3 of the 25th Amendment details what the president must do when he or she cannot fulfill their duties. The president simply sends a written notice to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives. The vice president then assumes the office of acting president, not president, until the president indicates in writing that he or she is again capable of assuming the duties of office. Presidents Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush both used Section 3 when undergoing surgeries. Finally, Section 4 of the 25th Amendment indicates how the vice president and a majority of the cabinet can remove a president from office. This group of people has to transmit to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. Once this is done, the vice president assumes the office of acting president. To reverse this status, the president simply has to submit a written declaration that no disability exists. You can see a potential problem with this. The president might think that he or she is perfectly fine, but the vice president and a majority of the cabinet might disagree. If so, they have 4 days to transmit a written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. It takes a 2/3 vote of both houses of Congress to find the president unable to discharge the powers and duties of office. If they can't reach the 2/3 majority, the president remains in office. But at this point, the president and vice president are probably not on speaking terms. That's all for today's podcast. 60 Second Civics, where civic education only takes a minute.